Hey guys, I expected less, so it's very cool. So, I am Šarūnas Savičianskas, CTO at TransferGo, a company which I hope you guys know, but if you don't, we work in fintech. We help people who go and travel abroad send money home. That's our catchphrase. And we love data. We kind of are a company which constantly discusses what data to use and what is the right data, what are the right kind of degrees of data to use. And because of that data, we raised ourselves an interesting question, possibly 3-4 months ago, to ask how likely is it that you would recommend TransferGo to your friend. Basically, it's an NPS score. If you don't know what an NPS is, it's a net promoter score, which indicates from 0 to 10, how likely would you, as a customer, recommend us to your friend. And you can give from 0 to 10, and when we sum this up, we don't do it actually, the software does it for us. We sum this up, and we get a result from -100 to +100. Everyone does that, who kind of tries to track their own NPS. And from -100 to 0, you probably need to think what's wrong with your product if your customers are saying, I would possibly not recommend you, like the majority of the customers. Because it's a formula which says like accumulates over time and changes over time. So all the changes you do to your product, it basically represents how well you are standing at the moment. For example, Starbucks has a score of 77, I think. Google is around 50, 60, and so on. A lot of banks are very, very low. I think I know only like one bank. I don't remember actually the name now, but only one bank having like 70 region. There are a lot of possibly very, very good NPSs, and we are very glad to have an 83 score, which is above 70 is basically world class. So we are very happy to be world class at this moment. So I wanted to share how we work and how products in general are built to get such a score from customers. Because it's not just 10 customers. I don't know. From our current test set, I think it's 5,000 people already in this calculation, or maybe more. So it's not a fluke, so it's very interesting, nice trend over a lot of our corridors. So I wanted to kind of share what my insights and what our general insights are, what makes a company and a product world class. So let's start with one thing which I constantly continue to say to everyone, what is a best product. A best product starts with best people. What does that mean? That starts not at, I don't know, saying, oh, I'm the best. Just look at me, I'm the best, I'll do everything best. No, it starts with basically from a founders or from management point of view, with finding and searching for the best people. The best people actually, if you look at the short-term perspective, like it's in the early stage, you might think, okay, so the things which I need are basically tech people. So not tech people, but technical fit. And it's the only thing I care because I will only need them to build the stuff. But it's very easy to start with that and think that it's the only thing which matters. For example, a person is very good technical fit, and that's it. He can be a loner, he can sit in the corner, build the best products, not talk to anyone, and just be by himself or herself. And that would be kind of a short-term solution, which would backfire as soon as the company or the team needs to start scaling up. Because I have not seen too many products, or maybe even a single product, which would have achieved the world-class status or huge scale just with one developer, with one tech person. So that means you will need to eventually have more people, and what matters then is the cultural fit, how they will work together, how they will express their opinions together with themselves and with yourself. in the company. If they can work together, that's cool. So if they cannot, basically what that means that the initial investment in the just pure technical fit and doesn't matter, and ignoring all the other things will mean that eventually, when the teams start scaling up, you will need to make a decision, okay, so I need to either change that person or I need to restructure the teams, which is painful. In general, basically, you don't want to do that exercise. So my opinion on this topic is the best people start with good mix of technical and cultural fit. And once you start looking and just surrounding yourself with people like that, you can leave a challenge of building a product and basically help them to themselves. So basically, you don't need to no longer micromanage or anything with them. The next topic is once you start hiring the best people and working with the best people, you have to go away from a mindset that you are the best person who knows the product. So basically, you have to do the data analysis and, I don't know, do the market analysis and understand that you're not just building that product to yourself. I had a couple of very, I would say, painful but interesting experiences working in a couple of companies where the products, basically we created very nice products, and in the end, they did not scale in a sense that the only person who needed them was the founder. So, for example, there was one company which I worked with, which did commodity aggregating of commodity trading data, which is cool, allows you to see some very nice trends, then mix and match them, and possibly do interesting calls on what to invest in, what not to invest in, and eventually maybe reach value. But in the end, that tool was meant for very, very, very niche users, basically data analysts, who, in essence, when we started pitching that product, just said that this is very cool, I see this trend, but if you can, give me the raw data. I don't really care. This is cool, but give me the raw data. So what that meant that with that product, we just built that product for the founder, because eventually, this basically going back retrospectively, he was that data analyst who just decided that, okay, so I do a lot of work to basically give a small insight, and we just replaced his one function instead of creating a huge product which applied to everyone. The other problem was that in a lot of cases, those data analysts were not the decision makers on the tools like that. They were decision makers on what the data is needed, but not the tools. So another example like that was a blogging platform where I worked with very nice people, and we were creating a blogging platform to help the bloggers get paid more and get paid better from their content. So basically manage the whole advertising and content supporting system. But in the end, what happened, since the founder himself was very, very, very into it, so he started forming everything around his opinion only, not listening around what the market needs actually. So the backlog at the end looked like, okay, feature in WordPress X, Y, Z, add. In the end, we just created the WordPress. After even my departure, they even came to a decision of using WordPress altogether, which was a pain. So, small thing, don't start building the products for yourself only. Start with looking who needs that product. And that brings me to the next topic, is listen to power users. And power users are something that I would call it's a kind of a trend now, not now, or a very long time already, where a lot of people like innovation and like to adopt innovation very, very quickly. And they want to make it their life, basically. And once they see something new, someone changing, like breaking down a process, and they see that they can basically change or improve their life with something which eliminates altogether some huge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 step process and just makes it one tap, one button press, or one something simple. They just want to adapt that because there's a critical mass of when all of the people, or majority of the people will adapt it, but there's a very interesting group of people who want and search for it. And for a product to basically be influenced and gain from this is to identify and get some power users as soon as possible. And because what that means is as soon as you will get some power users who are early adapters, early users, they will help you to do possibly even quality assurance for you, because they will use your product even though it's breaking, because it will eventually create value for them. And basically, they will be your quality assurance people, they will be your ambassadors, because every time something will happen, and this is very nice thing which we have with TransferGo is, for example, even in public forums or just chat sites, we do have a lot of situations where all the people ask, okay, so what should I use for sending money home? What's the solution? Is TransferGo good? We actually don't even follow that, and we have a lot of people who are two kinds of people. One is just early adopters and power users. The other one is just the other side, which will be in the next slide. People who just explain how TransferGo is doing that and this, how their exchange rate is good, how their procedures are necessary, and so on. So basically, in the end, the power users become the ambassadors. And that's what you want, basically, from the power users to get the first ambassadors and go to some sort of critical mass when it's kind of almost a trend to be a power user, to explain and possibly even share your product. And that brings me to the next thing of when you are searching or trying to identify your power users, do not sculpt them around what you want them to be, but rather allow data to show you what they are. What this means is basically, it does not always mean that they are very, very tech savvy or they are actually early adopters. It might be that they found you somehow and started using you because of a value, because your product was in the middle of the problem they had and the solution, which basically your product is a solution. I have a very interesting example from the startup where I used to work. We were doing fine dining food delivery from fine dining places, restaurants in London, and we had a couple of power users which were just exceptional. The ROI was, I don't know, at some point we just decided that we should remove them from calculations, average calculations altogether, because the ROI was just exceptional. They were ordering food once, twice a day, every single day. So basically, on our average calculations where we expected the users to order at least once, maybe twice a month, they were just skewing all the data for us. And once we looked into it, they were not our assumed users, our assumed customers. Not the profile, basically. One of them was like, I think a security guard, who just decided that, okay, I will not, basically I have two options. I have an option to go and pick up the food myself. I will basically go, then wait in line, then order something, and then bring it back. So basically the food is a little bit spoiled and all of that. Or I can just order again, whatever I'm ordering every day or every couple of days, and just receive it when I need it and as hot as I need it. And once we reached out to him, we were like expecting it for him to explain us, okay, so he knows how to hack our system because we were not happy with the whole performance. And he was like, I don't care about anything. Your product is just good. I like it. I'm just used to it. Tap, tap, tap. And what happens is that he actually followed the trend which I'm setting is he became our ambassador, and we saw a couple of other users acting like that. We did a kind of order heat map around London, and we saw that around a couple of people like that, we see heat maps. So basically, they even though they're not technical, not tech savvy, we started doing this word of mouth kind of thing. So, for example, around that security guard, we saw the whole building eventually starting to order food. We didn't advertise there, but he was our ambassador. He was our power user, and he was kind of, even though he's not tech savvy, he was actually advertising us and giving us huge value. So my small point here is don't assume and don't kind of shape your power users around what you think they are, but let the data show you what they possibly are. This brings me to the next topic, small topic, is when building the products, think about what you add there, and most likely think more about what you don't add there. The real life scenario usually, which is most likely kind of a common topic, is that 90% of everything you add additionally is a nice to have. There's only like 1-2 features which the customers will always say, okay, if you ask them why do you come to use our product, they will most likely say, I use it for one thing. They will not say, I use it for, I don't know, this feature, but they will most likely say, I use it for X feature and something. So basically, we will see the trend that there's 1 or 2 things which make your product the product. Basically, what that means that your product is a solution to a problem, and everything else is a nice to have. So once you start doing that, start thinking about basically what features I'm adding are the features which the data is showing me to add, not the features which I think will make it very good. So basically, it means that you start with one product, one feature. This is how all the products are. And then instead of adding additional nice-to-haves, start thinking, okay, so I see in the data that someone is not using me for X reason, not using our product for X reasons. Maybe you have to look into it. Maybe you have to look into what data is showing, what the customers are saying. In that scenario, maybe the power users will have some sort of answers on top of it. Of course, you will need to do some bets, but at the same time, don't fill your roadmap with a lot of features, which are just features. What I mean with features is that most likely you will have competitors which will have more features or different features or something like that. And what I would advise not to do is not to follow what, for example, a lot of furniture stores do. If I know this very interesting story of, it is actually kind of like a common joke of how there were a lot of furniture stores on one street, and they were competing for the same customer. And eventually they started doing, okay, so we get one furniture store gets a sofa, one kind of sofa, and all of them get that sofa. Then another gets something else, and all of them get that. In the end, the whole street is filled with furniture stores selling the exact same things. And once you go and ask them why do they do that, they're like, because everyone else is doing that. If I don't do it, it's basically I'm losing. Well, no. If you're selling one thing, if you're doing one thing, most likely you're good at it, and if people will say, I'll come here for this. If you have all the features which everyone else has, you will just end up in that rat race where everyone will compare you for the same things rather than you will have one unique selling point. Which brings me to the next thing. Once building the products is the important thing is don't think that the problem the customers have is the UI of something. Like don't think that, okay, so we have, again, this is a very high level example, but we have Facebook. Facebook is cool, but their UI is terrible. So I'll just create new Facebook with, I don't know, different colors because people don't like blue. So don't start with the product or iterations with an idea of, okay, I will just improve AI and it will be good. I would say from this to the next one, I would just go from a point of improving the UI to the point of removing as many possible details as possible to be all about just one feature. Start with the concept of Google. It started from one input, one search button, and then every product is exactly like that. It's just one simple button, which I call, I like it very, I think there already are a couple of startups in US which have this one very nice feature, is like the app is just one button, is get me pizza. And what that does is just basically you press that button and you get your favorite pizza, where you are, everything automatically paid, and that's it. So basically the UI is just one big red button. Start to think conceptually about your product in a way that why do you need more details? It's just one button, and that's it. So start thinking from a perspective of not less details. It's easier to maintain, less copy to maintain, less colors, less designers, less testing to do to actually iterate that. And I like to use this very simple quote. Sadly, I don't remember who said that, about the design in general, that a designer knows he has achieved perfection not when there is nothing to add, but when there is nothing left to take away. And I kind of strongly believe that in product building in general, because there's always space to add more, I don't know, shadows, designs, buttons, drop-downs, all of that. But once you achieve that level where it's just that one feature, one nice looking thing, which doesn't need to, there's nothing left to take away, but it still does that perfect job, you have achieved perfection. Which brings me to the next thing, is identifying why people actually love your product. Coming back to my previous kind of couple of slides back, most likely, again, a lot of features, a lot of things you have in your product, people don't care about that. They use your product despite all of that. They focus on one thing, they want to focus on one thing, and they love that one thing. If you, for example, even for us, the NPS, when we started tracking it, the people can leave a score and they can leave a comment. A huge percentage of people left a comment about one thing, like about either our transfer rates being good, or just our product being good in general, like how easy it is to send and how good of an exchange rate it is actually to use with TransferGo. And basically, that's the common theme with a lot of products. It's just identify one, two, or just the thing why people love it, and just continue making it your priority. The next thing is, I think a lot of people actually say that when it comes to growing products, is don't over-engineer. But from my perspective, is keep that over-engineering level at a healthy level. Don't go into an argument, for example, I don't know, management people versus tech people. Don't go into an argument of standstill. Don't go into no. Everything has to be perfect, or no. Everything has to be shipped quickly. Have a healthy kind of, I always identify it as a small arrow going from one side to another. It's have a healthy attitude where it's try to basically do your iterations very, very fast, and try to make sure that they are very small, so they don't cost you a lot. I know a couple of examples of people, even a couple of my friends, where they spent painfully 12 months basically building something in their mom's garage, and then they said, okay, now it's perfect. Now I'll ship it to the world, everyone will love it, everyone will use it. What ended up? People did not understand one product, people did not, they used it, but they said, okay, this is too very specific, the UI, everything is too thought through, like for me, I want it just for one feature, again, just for one thing I love, everything else is just stopping me. And what happened is that they spent 12 months doing something which they thought was right, and maybe what was right in this niche scenario, when they could have just, I don't know, prototyped a very ugly solution just to test out an idea, and get some data. Okay, someone is using it, cool. Someone is not using it, cool. I learned that no one is going to use it, and I saved 12 months. That's cool. Most likely, a lot of scenarios will be where you will learn that something does not work. That means that if you kind of go to that assumption initially, and you don't engineer everything to the perfection level, the arrow is not at the perfect side, basically you will be just saving time all the time. Your MVPs will be ship, fail, okay, learn. Ship, fail, learn. And then ship, okay, this is successful. Now, let's invest here a little bit. So basically what that means, you'll fail a lot of times, you won't over-engineer every single solution, and you will most likely hit with a small MVP, which you will be able to then elaborate, use, and create additional value for the customers. From this, I want to mention a very good use case, which I heard actually, funnily enough, from a bank presentation, how they view problems in general, is about failing about all of those shipping a feature, which is an MVP, even not an MVP, even in real life scenarios, which possibly has a possibility to fail. In our scenario, once we're working with money, it means that the price of a failure is very, very high for us. For example, if we show ambiguity like this, that you, for example, when you go to your account and you see you have a balance of 1 million euros, and then, oops, sorry, possibly it's 1 million or 1,000. Please refresh. It's basically just it destroys the whole trust with your brand, and then basically the first thing I always kind of think and encourage to do is think about your failures. Just think about how your 500 error code page will look, and basically create your own fail whale and just make it okay. So instead of showing you 1 million or 1,000, we're showing you, oh, sorry, we had to log you off. And that's why actually I think a lot of you would most likely have seen that, where you log into your bank and they say, oh, sorry, we had to log you off. Most likely what happened there is that their systems did not crash. Their systems just returned some sort of ambiguity, which they did not want to handle at all. They did not want to create any rule saying if, I don't know, they didn't want to do, okay, so we have 1 million and 1,000, so which one is correct? Let's do an average, maybe the bigger one is true, maybe the lower one is true, I don't know. Basically, instead of doing that, they just log you off. So they just eliminate the ambiguity altogether, and that way they limit your access. Basically, they log you off, you start your experience again, without even thinking that their systems failed or their systems returned any ambiguity. From this, another topic which I want to touch exactly with limiting access is to limit the access for an overloaded traffic which you might receive. For example, and this was a very good topic which I actually learned a couple of weeks ago in Google Next presentation, where we were talking about uptime. And this was very, very cool, where they were talking, okay, so what do? We have a capacity for a server of 10,000 users, and we receive 500,000. What do? Our systems after 10,000, from 20, 30, 50,000, become dead slow. So it's like everything's loading up for a minute, and so on and so on. What we decided to do, what was the best practice, was to start doing load shedding, basically. Help the existing 10,000 still enjoy your product. Everyone else, sorry, 500, fail whale. Come back later. But what that means is your product is still accessible to your users, to that 10,000. Obviously, everyone else is not using your product. They are standing in a queue. And eventually, if they refresh, someone leaves and they are in those 10,000. So just think about that. Just limit the access instead of creating a slow, bad experience. So basically, this is a two-point thing. It's one thing, don't show ambiguity. The other thing is limit the access basically altogether, so you don't limit the product and the experience for everyone else. And then the last one, which I probably started with and coming back to the same topic, is fall in love with your data. Your data will most likely show you what you're doing wrong. Not most likely, it will show you what you're doing wrong. It will show you what you're doing right. Most likely the wrong part will be very, 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 very heavy on the side of, okay, a lot of wrongs, a couple of rights. But all the wrongs are also kind of good just because all of them are lessons. The key is just to kind of have those lessons cost you very, very little amount of resources. So don't be blind, fall in love with data, have a lot of funnels, have a lot of reasonable metrics to track, and just keep looking at them, keep understanding them, because the product is one, the metrics is the other thing, and if you don't have the data to back all your hunches and everything, you're just living in a world where you're, as a developer or as a team which is developing a product, you're using a hunch-driven development rather than data-driven development. And hunch-driven development is very cool if you're on a pulse of the industry and you feel that every guess you'd make is the guess and everything works, but at some point it will stop, because with a growing amount of users, your hunches will just change. And starting from your power user perspective, where you're the power user, you will most likely not be the power user anymore. So yeah, fall in love with data. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you.
No worries.
Maybe some questions for Šarūnas. Because if not, we have one question for Šarūnas.
Can we skip that guy?
Hey, how are you?
Good, you?
I think you know me, right?
I have seen you around here.
Are you hiring any people? I'm very interested. I'm an Android developer.
Yes, we're
How
hiring
can
Android
I work at your company?
Are you an Android developer?
Yes, I am.
Yes, we're hiring Android and iOS developers. Definitely, we're searching for you. Come and talk with me.
Good money?
And anyone else.
Great
Very
money?
good money. Best
Good.
money.